AVRant and SVS have teamed up to bring you an unbelievable opportunity. Have you been dreaming of dual subwoofers? Perhaps you'd like to upgrade your entire 5.1 speaker package. Don't have the cash? AVRant and SVS have your back. Go to www.avrant.com right now for your chance to win your choice of dual PB1000 subwoofers or a prime 5.1 satellite speaker package. Contest ends September 30th. Don't wait. Open to the residents of the United States and Canada. We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
McMansion Kris is trying to understand how HDR works and hopes that we can clarify a few things. For TVs that support HDR10 only, when Dolby Vision content is played, will it be played in HDR or SDR, high definition high dynamic range or standard dynamic range? And does it matter whether it's played through a native app on the TV versus an external device via HDMI?
This is so much more complicated to answer than it seems.
I say yes. That's just the answer. That's what I'm going with.
Okay, well, so you have a TV, like let's say a Samsung, that does HDR10 but doesn't do Dolby Vision, all right? So first of all, you're never going to get Dolby Vision content via one of its built-in apps because it doesn't support Dolby Vision. So you don't have to worry about a Dolby Vision signal coming into your Samsung TV through one of its built-in apps. The only HDR signal that could ever possibly come in through one of its built-in apps would be an HDR10 signal. And actually, Netflix supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Vudu now supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For a while, they were Dolby Vision only, but now they're doing both. Amazon supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So if you have an HDR10 capable TV, you're not in too much danger at all. Now, let's say you got some piece of Dolby Vision content somehow that's external. Dolby Vision can start with an HDR10 base layer and then have Dolby Vision as kind of a superset on top of that. That's actually how Ultra HD Blu-ray discs are going to work. Ultra HD Blu-ray discs are mandated to have HDR10 support,
right,
if they have HDR at all. They're mandated to have HDR10. Dolby Vision is then an option above and beyond that. So if you buy a Ultra HD Blu-ray disc with Dolby Vision on it, and all you have is an HDR10 TV, don't worry, it'll still play HDR10. Now, in the case of like Vudu, it was theoretically possible to have something playing Vudu. It was Dolby Vision. It was Dolby Vision only at the time. This is prior to when Vudu started supporting HDR10 just very recently. You put that into a Samsung TV, and all you will get is standard dynamic range.
Right. Because
it does not understand the extra metadata, you will only get standard dynamic range. So it's kind of a complex answer, but by and large, if you have an HDR10 only TV, now that there are no services that don't support both, and because Ultra HD Blu-ray discs, if they have Dolby Vision, they also by mandate have HDR10 as well, you're basically safe. So I think that's the answer.
All right. Like I said, yes. Is it safe to assume that any TV that supports Dolby Vision will also be able to play HDR10? He just answered that.
Well, technically no, because there is the Vizio reference series
that came out before this thing.
Yeah, they were the very first Dolby Vision TVs, and they only have Dolby Vision. They do not have HDR10, but that is the only instance. So if you buy anything other than a Vizio reference series TV, so any of the Vizio P series, Vizio M series, or any of the LG TVs that have Dolby Vision, they all do HDR10 as well. So there is that one exception.
Yeah, so this kind of negates the rest of this question, but I'll read it anyways. He understands that HDR10 and hybrid log gamma or HLG can be upgraded via firmware, but what if a TV...
Well, HDR10 can't. Okay, so got to clarify that. HLG can be upgraded via firmware, HDR10 can't. If you have the Dolby reference or the Vizio reference series, you can't get HDR10 on that no matter what. HDR10 actually does require a hardware chip inside.
There you go.
So that can't be done on the Vizio reference series.
So if he does, so basically, if you get HDR10 and you have this reference series one, you're not going to get high dynamic range is what it comes down to. So that's
right. Yes, the Vizio reference series only understands Dolby Vision
right.
when it comes to high dynamic range. But that, like I say, that is the one exception. That is the one series of TV out there. So any of the other TVs that you could get that have Dolby Vision right now, they also support HDR10. So if it's an HDR10 signal, no problem. They understand that signal.
There you go. Most TV specs today list either HDMI 2.0 or 2.0A, but none of them list HDMI 2.1.
Because it hasn't officially been ratified yet.
I was going to say, I haven't heard of this. I was like, did that come out at CDA? Because I didn't read that at the very beginning.
No, they're working on it, but it's not here yet.
All right. So does HDMI 2.1 bring any worthy improvements to to high dynamic range? And if so, are consumers buying TVs today with HDMI 2.0 going to miss anything? Also, will TVs with HDMI 2.0 and 2.0A be able to upgrade via firmware to 2.1? Has that ever happened? Has there ever been an HDMI update that can be firmware updated?
Well, in the case of the PlayStation 3, the original version couldn't bitstream out HD audio, and then they did a firmware update, and it could.
I honestly didn't know. I don't really remember that one, so I can't think of a single instance, I guess, other than that, where it's happened. So shock me, Rob, and tell me that they're going to upgrade all these things to 2.1 via firmware.
Yeah, well, honestly, we don't know for sure. One of the things they're considering adding with HDMI 2.1 is dynamic metadata to HDR10.
Okay.
Which would make it more similar to Dolby Vision. So that is one of the things. And right now, literally, the HDMI people are saying, we don't know if we're hoping to be able to do this via firmware, but we don't know if we will be able to or not. So we don't know because the guys making it don't know. But that would be an enhancement. If HDR10 can be updated to have dynamic metadata, that would be an enhancement to the overall system. And hopefully, it will be available via a firmware upgrade if you already have HDMI 2.0A, because you do need 2.0A in order to support HDR10. So that's that.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.